technical and internet issues, but we are here. If things get a little fuzzy or break up, just throw it in the chat and let us know. But hopefully, all is well. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited to have this conversation and just making sure everything is set up and that we are actually streaming to everything. But I think you guys can see us. If anyone is out there, you can throw it in the chat and let us know. Anyone. But okay, I see some people in there. Do you guys see us? Yes. Okay. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Helen. Oh, I recognize some names in here, which makes me so happy. Hi, Jana. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Britta, and I'm the founder of Jasper, named after my incredible dog who I lost in March 2024, and got the opportunity to be introduced to Dr. Sarah Hoggan. And we are so excited to be here and have this conversation. If you are not familiar with Jasper, we are a pet loss grief community to help support you while you navigate your grief, because Dr. Hoggan and I recognize and agree that everyone deserves support. Pet loss is not a small loss. It deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be heard. And grief needs to be witnessed. It is not something we're meant to do on our own. It's complicated, it's messy, and it is it is not great. So I am sorry. I am seeing that can anyone confirm if Facebook is working? I just want to make sure. Okay. Sorry, guys. Thank you for letting us know in the chat, but I will get back on track. Grief isn't meant to be witnessed. It is meant to be shared. And I selfishly created what I needed after I lost Jasper. I recognized I needed community. I needed to connect with people that understood what I was going through, and needed the guidance from experts like Dr. Sarah Hoggan to help me understand and wrap my head around why this loss was so heavy, why it felt so complicated, and why I felt so isolated in my grief. And I'm sure that's something a lot of you guys have experienced, unfortunately, since pet loss is disenfranchised grief. It is not widely understood or accepted by everyone, but that is not the case here. We are here because we all agree this deserves to be witnessed and navigated with people by your side. I am thrilled to introduce the amazing Dr. Sarah Hoggan. We are lucky to have her as our Chief Veterinary Officer here at Jasper. She is also an emergency vet and two-time TEDx speaker on pet loss grief, which, if you have not seen her videos, I highly recommend, and we will throw it in the chat. We have them on jaspergrief.com too, but welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation today.
Thank you, and thank you for the very thoughtful introduction. I appreciate it. Anybody who knows me would say, and we have the goofy Dr. Hoggan with us. So, but I appreciate it very much, and thank you for being here. And I think that you brought up some really incredible points in that, yes, pet loss grief is a form of disenfranchised grief, meaning there isn't a set of societal norms that are considered useful or normal on how to navigate this grief. So what that does is that makes it incredibly isolating because either people don't know what to say, so they say nothing, or they don't know what to say, so they say the wrong thing. Sometimes well intentioned but misguided, and other times people just don't understand because they've never ever had a pet or they've never truly connected to an animal and found out what an incredibly fulfilling relationship and connection that is. And so grief intrinsically is isolating because everybody navigates it differently. So it's an individual journey, even within families, even within couples, it's an individual journey. And having a community that supports you not only supports you in that we listen and we support, but also a community that sees you. Being supported is different than being seen. Being supported is somebody who generally says, gosh, I'm sad and I'm sorry for you, which is wonderful. But there's a limit to how much that helps. Being seen is when you can tell someone, I haven't been able to move the dog. I haven't been able to take my cat's favorite blanket off my bed yet. And it's been 3 months. And the person that you're telling says, yeah, I haven't touched any of my pet's things for a year. I think you're doing great. It makes perfect sense to me. Being seen is when you don't have to explain. And that's what we're about. You don't have to explain to us. You don't have to tell us how you feel or why you feel that way. Because we all have had this loss and we all understand and we all feel that way. So sleeping with your pet's favorite toy in your bed, totally normal to me.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
it's okay. So Greta, by all means, you
Oh
had
yeah, no, I'm just so glad you said that because I think that's one of the most helpful things. It's getting that validation because so often we're stuck in our own head thinking, gosh, I must be crazy or this is so weird. There's so many times that I went through like, am I the only one feeling this way? I mean, I never celebrated Mother's Day with Jasper, but I remember waking up that first Mother's Day and feeling odd and having this identity crisis of, if I don't have Jasper anymore, am I still a mom? And I feel so lucky because one of my, or two of my good friends, Erica and Michelle, they both checked in on me that day. They didn't say anything profound. They didn't say anything that waved a wand and took my pain away. They just said, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you want to talk? Do you want to just sit on the phone? And
mm-hmm.
that alone, that acknowledgement that today might be tough for you, and I see you, and I can just sit here on the phone with you, that is the most powerful thing. And you're right, it is something that I don't think you know until you've been through it yourself or seen someone close to you go through it. But even then, how I know to support someone now is so different than what I thought I should do before I've been through it myself. And so being around people that understand, that acknowledge, that don't judge. I had Jasper's favorite green hoodie on a childhood stuffed animal, and I slept with that every night. People keep bowls out. They still take the leashes on walks, take Ashes on walks. There's all these ways you can continue honoring them and memorializing them, which will bring us into our topic for today. But it's unique, it's different, but none of it's weird. None of it's going to be judged. If anything, I love hearing the unique ways people approach this because it inspires me and gives me new ideas. So, For today, we're gonna go a little deeper on that and talk about how we remember them. And it's not just these big memorials, it's not these, shrines necessarily, but how we allow tiny parts of them to be a part of our day-to-day lives, to be a part of our routines as we continue on. Um, it took me a while to realize after Jasper passed that remembering him and remembering the good times, it didn't mean the grief then went away or didn't exist, or one couldn't exist without the other. Both can be true at the same time. And I think that's a misconception a lot of us deal with. It's, oh, if I laugh, if I'm excited, if I smile at a memory, does that mean I've moved on from my grief and disconnected from them? And I don't believe that's the case, but let's dive in. Sarah, why do you think remembering and honoring them is such an important part of the grief process?
I think it's important for more reasons than you can really counter list. So the reality is in our life as we go through this time that we have on earth, our life is a it's a menagerie of stories and experiences that come together. And the people or the places that you're really connected to in your life are woven in the fabric of your stories. So much so that if you were to try to unweave it, you'd have a completely different story. And when you lose someone you love, and I use someone interchangeably for whether it's a feather, fur, scale person or whether it's a human person, because it's it's a personality that I connect with that brings me joy and happiness and fulfillment and makes me the best version of myself. So when I say someone, that's an interchangeable. And when you have had them woven into your story for either such a long time or such an important time, duration of relationship is important, but not singularly. I mean, you can love a pet madly for a year or for 6 months because that's all the time you got to have with them. And that's just as valid as getting to have them for many years. So when we suddenly lose them, it's like there's a void in the fabric of our lives. And it destabilizes everything. And when you take the time to honor that memory, it is restabilizing your story. It is validating all the time and love that you put into them and they put into you. And it allows you a sense of, a measure of comfort. And it helps you start to heal, because grief really is a wound. And when people talk about, the phases of grief, the acute grief versus, the more prolonged grief or the complicated grief, I'm medical, obviously, so I tend to think of a lot of things in the context of medicine. And it's kind of like if I were to smash my thumb with a hammer, that second that I'm trying to build something and smash my thumb, it's going to hurt like mad. It won't hurt as bad after I ice it and take care of it for a day, but it's not gone. I haven't healed. There is still a lot of pathology underneath the surface that is working on being healed by my body, controlling the inflammation and trying to repair the tissue damage. Same thing happens with grief. Right when it happens, it's that acute, crushing, can't draw full breath into your lungs pain. And that pain gets better little by little with time. But that's just because the process is evolving, not because you're completely healed. So if you start to smile, if you start to laugh at memories instead of cry, that just means that the natural transition from acutely damaged, acutely injured, or damaged is moving towards the path of healing, and that's okay. So that's why I think it's so important to honor them, because they're such a huge part of our life. So we have to sew that tear in our life in the fabric of who we are back together. And we do that through the memories and the stories and the honoring of the love that we share.
I mean, one of the things that was so shocking to me was how many times a day I said his name and then was just supposed to stop. I was just supposed to stop saying his name, stop talking about him, sharing stories. And I think that's because people were uncomfortable. They didn't know what to say or how to react. They probably didn't know if I was going to cry or laugh when I started talking about them. But I know in our community, that's kind of a huge cornerstone of what we do. I've gotten to meet, honestly, at this point, like thousands of pets through Jasper, thousands of incredible animals. Pets even sometimes seems like the wrong word. Thousands of these amazing beings, their stories, their memories, like they continue to live on in all of those instances. And I was the person that first 3 months of my grief, when I was in that acute grief, I was allergic to the word gratitude. I If someone tried to get me to reflect on the good times, I would kindly tell them to F off. um,
Yeah.
and over time, I became more open to it, but I found for me, and it was not easy, that a big unlock for me in this grief was realizing that you can you can feel grief and joy or grief and love at the same time.
Mhm.
They can both be true. They can both coexist. That me laughing or being excited about the future, or now finding joy in little moments with Theo. For those that don't know, Jasper passed away in March 2024, and I adopted my new dog Theo back in November, and it was really challenging. I will not sugarcoat it. It was hard. I had a couple days this weekend that were hard. But recognizing he does not replace Jasper. They are not the same. And now, frankly, I tell Theo all about Jasper. I found ways to bring Jasper into Theo's life. Those are the things that make the grief not so heavy and sharp to carry. It's Theo wore one of Jasper's collars when I first brought him home. I wasn't sure if I was going to be okay with it, but it felt right. There's certain things he can't touch, like the stuffed animal with the sweatshirt I mentioned at the top of the call that is safely tucked away somewhere, because that cannot, in Jasper's little clothes, like those will not be in Theo's presence, at least not for the first couple of years when everything is a toy. Um, but it's getting to this place, as I veer around, where grief and love and joy can kind of happen at the same time. There's guilt that comes up when you're feeling that, but it's it's bringing them into that joy, if that makes sense. It's letting them be a
Mhm.
part of that joy in the future, whether it's telling his story to people or laughing at a moment, saying, Jasper, can you please tell Theo to calm down? Or can you teach him to be more behaved like you were, like help a girl out? Um, it's when I feel connected and comfort, but it took a while to get here.
Mhm.
And I think because people use this term, move on, get over it, or get another one. It's this concept of replacing or moving away from the bond or relationship. What do you think? How does that impact our healing? And also, what do you think the biggest misunderstanding is around staying connected with them after they pass and not moving on?
So I think that when people say move on, I I mean, are there some jerks in the world? Yeah, of course there are. But I think most people are trying to come from a place of positive intent and say things like that because they see you're still struggling and they feel like they're giving you tough love. You know, come on, cowboy up. It's okay.
Yeah.
And they think they're helping. They don't understand. And so it's very hard when they do it. And I think that, you know, you're not going to change them. So what you just do is, you can acknowledge them. You can say, I appreciate the tough love, but I think that you're being not helpful to me right now. So go away.
Okay.
It's, you don't have to take that. They mean well. I come from a family of tough love, but
Yeah.
you can do with that information what you will. But I think that it's really important to remember because when you lose a pet, what happens is yes, physically they are gone. But love is a form of energy, and energy is a constant in the universe. So that love doesn't just disappear. Their body is gone, but all that energy that you put into each other, forging that relationship, making those memories, and loving each other is still there. You can absolutely hold on to that love, and it's going to stay a part of you as long as you want it to stay a part of you. If it is too painful at first, that's okay. It's not going to go anywhere because it's a part of you. You can decide that you're going to kind of set it aside for a bit because maybe you need some things that you need to do to function. Like if you're a parent of small children, you don't have the privilege of just sitting by yourself in sorrow and having some hours to really contemplate. So then what you do is you look at the clock and you make a bargain with yourself and you say, okay, I only have to be brave for 5 hours, and then I can put the kids to bed and I can have some time to myself. And if you need to find a piece of paper or a chalkboard and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as each hour passes, cross that off, you can do that. But you can absolutely hold on to that love and utilize that because once the grief starts to soften, once the edges aren't as sharp, then those memories will come back and that love will be a source of warmth and joy that you can share with whomever wants to listen to those family stories for the rest of your life. Exactly the way it is when your family gets together with extended family and you remember other family legends that you've lost, your grandparents, maybe siblings, maybe parents. It's all valid. That love is still there, and you can use it as fuel to keep yourself warm and happy, and know that you were truly loved, unconditionally loved. And that'll stay with you for the rest of your life. Best thing
So,
about animals,
I
they
mean,
don't lie about love.
no, they don't. They don't. It is the purest love. And I can say too, with certainty, the love I got and received with Jasper is so different in such a beautiful way than what I get from Theo. And I know I've talked to you, Dr. Hogan, extensively when I was considering getting a new pet. And I was very scared of a new relationship replacing it. But there's two things I want to take from what you just said. The family gathering stuff I want to put to the side for a minute because I do want to circle back to that. But I had also seen some things come up in the chat about, like, does anyone believe that they're still with us, or have you gotten signs or people saying like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful sign you got. And I love what you said about energy. And something that something that I have realized. So this is coming from me. I am not religious. I wouldn't consider myself spiritual. I have explored many things, and I think, coming of age, I still wasn't sure what I believed. I never really thought about it deeply enough before Jasper passed, like what do I believe happens when he's gone. And I think one of the things that we sometimes forget that we can do, we can decide. We get to choose what we believe in. We get to choose how we want how we want to kind of look at that. And I know sometimes it's hard, especially if you did have a certain way of thinking, but I believe Jasper can hear me when I talk out loud to him. I believe that he sends me, it used to be hawks, cardinals, now it's any bird, sometimes deer. There's just these moments where I choose to say, oh, that's a little sign from Jasper, or I say something to him and I feel him there, or I go to yoga and I'm like, oh, Jasper's here with me right now. And a lot of people might think I'm crazy, and that is fine. A lot of people might say, well, I don't understand. What do you believe? And my response would be like, I'm still figuring it out, but I believe that I have the choice to stay connected with him, that his energy is still here, that there are ways I can continue honoring him and bringing him into my life. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Again, it's that, the disenfranchised grief, maybe not everyone understands it. Maybe some people judge us. And I think that's why we should be picky and choosy with who we share and process our grief with, because the last thing we need right now is judgment. We do not need judgment for keeping that water bowl out, or continuing to go on walks with their leash, or talking to them out loud every night. If we choose to do that, if it gives us some sort of relief or comfort, if it allows us to feel that connection, it is no one's choice but ours. And if anyone is ever feeling like they are not allowed to explore or experience that, it is when I say, like, community is so important. Find people that can embrace it. I mean, I'm seeing these conversations in the chat right now, which are incredible, because I see people are connecting over the shared experience, the shared emotions and feelings, and that's what this is all about. And the people that I share the most stories with about Jasper right now, None of them have met him. I feel more comfortable sharing stories about Jasper and honoring him with strangers. And that's okay. It's
That's
disappointing
your child.
sometimes, but the Jasper community, friends that I've met recently, other dog moms that live in my building, they don't flinch when I bring them up. They don't flinch when I laugh, maybe because they didn't see me grieve deeply, or maybe they just embrace grief more. But we get to decide. And I think that's such a unique thing, especially because that bond was ours.
Mhm.
No one can take away from that. So, coming off of the other thing you brought up, dealing with grief and family and functions and other people that maybe knew the relationship, what advice do you give if people are struggling to have the space to honor them, whether it's continuing to get dismissed or family that's not, that is either really hard on you, so you can't talk about them at Christmas? Like, what are some of your tips for navigating that, knowing that we are heading into a lot of holidays and changes
Right.
of seasons, which can trigger a lot of these emotions?
Before I answer that, I wanted to touch on the one thing where people were talking about signs.
Oh,
Are
yes.
you getting signs from them? And I am someone that um, is highly spiritual and to an extent, raised in faith, and and I think that it transcends the teachings of religion. Not trying to get into theology here. I didn't study theology. That wasn't a class offered in that school. But recognize that faith and spirituality are different than religion. Religion is something that was invented by human beings to try to make sense of what they were feeling with faith and spirituality. So just understand that if you're feeling like you're running into some rules associated with religions, just understand that religion is something humans made. Faith and spirituality is something that is intrinsic, documented actually in several primates, not just humans. So that's just one bit of information. As far as signs go, you know, I feel very much like I've had signs from pets and even some patients that I lost that I was incredibly connected to. And I can tell you, in my time as an emergency doctor, I have seen many things that I can't explain, that defy logic, where I can't show it to you in a textbook and tell you this is why this happened. One of the most common things is if I had a patient that was languishing and I could tell they weren't doing well and their body was starting to shut down, I would call their family on the phone and I would say, your baby isn't doing well. And if you want to come say goodbye, you need to get here now. And I need to know a realistic time of how quickly you can get here, realistically. And they'd tell me whether it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that. And I'd say, okay, just please don't dilly dally. Do your best to get here soon. And I'd go to their pet and I would tell them, I talked to your family and I know you're getting ready to go. And they are going to be here in 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever the time was that they told me. And I would tell them that I need you to try to hang on because they really want to see you one more time and tell you goodbye. And more often than not, I felt like they held on until their family arrived. And then pretty quickly after their family arrived, then they started their journey to leave the earth. So I can't prove that with a textbook, but I've seen it way too many times. And um, I've had numerous people tell me that they kind of hallucinated, either visual or auditory, where out of the corner of their eye, they'd swear that they saw their pet, or on a hill across from their house, they'd see this animal that looked very much like their pet, that did some sort of gesture or something that was so specific to their pet, not just a random movement that any animal would do. And when they went to get binoculars or something else to investigate more thoroughly, they were gone. Or they'd hear their bark when the wind blows. So just know that that makes you normal. That a lot of people experience that. And if you have a family or you're at a gathering where you're feeling like you're not supported or you're not understood, and what are some tips and tricks? I think that you can, I think that you've got multiple things you can do. I think that if you're at a function where you don't really have the privilege of escaping or manifesting emotions, like pretend it's a big work conference. You can't just burst into tears there. That makes it a very difficult situation. So what you do is you figure out 2 or 3 scripted lines that are just a few sentences that you're going to be able to rehearse before you get there, and you're going to be able to say as kind of just a knee-jerk reaction. You don't have to engage emotionally. If somebody's like, hey, yeah, I heard your dog died and you're having a tough time, that's too bad. You can say, yeah, I appreciate that and I'm doing okay. And leave it at that. You're not opening the door to more conversation. You're very much closing the door. And, if you're saying, yeah, I'm doing okay, that's not lying. Okay is not on the spectrum of joy very high. You can truthfully say, I'm okay, because in that moment you're breathing, you're upright, and you're not hemorrhaging. So you're okay. And if you do have a situation where, maybe you could escape for a little bit, if you need to have a cry, you can take a shower and cry in the shower. Nobody can tell because all of you's wet, and that's okay. If that's not an option, you can try the clock trick again. I've used that at work when I really needed to kind of fall to pieces and I really couldn't. So I go into the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I say, this is a 12-hour shift. You only have 4 more hours. You can be brave for 4 hours. You've done it before. You can do it again. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a timer on the phone for 1 hour. And each time that timer goes off, you know that you have been brave for that long. And that's really good. And the moment we get in our car, we can fall apart. If you don't have the privilege of taking a shower, see if you can run an errand. If you're at a family gathering and they're getting ready for dinner and they're like, oh gosh, we need lettuce or whatever. Maybe just say, oh God, you know what? We need ice. We ran out of ice last night. Or I'm using a lot of ice because I'm doing this new drink where I like extra ice in it. So I'm going to go buy ice. Invent some dumb little errand and get in your car and take the long way to the store and park somewhere out in the corner of the store where no one can see you, the back corner of the parking lot. And you can sit there in your car, roll up your windows, and have a good cry for a few minutes. And then you can go into the store where nobody knows you, buy whatever you need to buy, wander up and down the aisles, do whatever you need to do. But it's okay to need that reset. It's okay. The final thing I think that can be helpful, that's been helpful to me, is I'm a pen and paper person. I'm not much of a digital person. thusly all the digital challenges we had this morning. And I live in the mountains, so the signal can be a little funky. But, you know, I carry a pen and paper with me all the time. There's one in my purse, there's several in my car, there's a bajillion all over the house. If you're having a memory that keeps perseverating, it's like on repeat. Write that down and trap that in paper, because there's something about it your mind isn't willing to let go. And so if you trap it in paper, or if you're a digital person, either video yourself talking about it or type it in as a reminder, whatever you want to do, but trap it in some way. And then you can tell your brain, okay, I've got this written down, I've got it recorded, I'm not going to forget it. So this movie can stop now. And you have tangible proof that you've recorded it, you've written it down, you've done something. And that can short circuit that movie that keeps playing that's driving you crazy. And again, that's okay. That's part of grief too. And part of the reason that happens is because your head and your heart don't talk to each other. They're very different languages. And so with acute grief, your heart throws a tantrum because it wasn't ready to let go. And it's really upset. Even if your brain is okay with it, and okay is a relative term again. But, you know, just know that that's why one of the reasons it's so hard. You're not weak. You're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. You're grieving.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
I want to come back to the ideas of like what these little rituals, memories, ways to honor them look like, but something you started to touch on that I know many people struggle with, it's the guilt, it's the what ifs, it's the, like you said, the circling around a specific memory. There's a few folks that have brought up, like, how can you get past the search for answers or the grasping at straws, or potentially what you feel was maybe a doctor dismissing, what was going on or what your concerns were, or feeling like things weren't handled properly. That can block us from feeling like we can start to honor them and memorialize them. What tips do you have for people that are kind of stuck in that guilt rumination stage where they can't kind of get through that moment?
I think that's more common than people realize. And I think that what you need to do is a couple things. First of all, I think you need to give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Because understand that you made the absolute best decision you could at the time with the information you had. Looking backwards, it's that old hindsight's 2020. And I have seen a lot of people look back and suddenly connect dots that they didn't know were connected before, and say, oh my God, how could I have missed that? I thought it was because he was getting older and more tired, or it's been hot, so he was drinking more water, or, give yourself some grace. You cannot look backwards through a lens that only really goes forward. When you're moving through life on a day-to-day basis, you don't have the ability to fast forward in time and then have the benefit of hindsight. You made the best decision you could at the time with the information you had. Once you get new information, then things are a lot more clear. But that's how it works. And, I call this kind of the Scooby-Doo example. At the end of Scooby-Doo, they go through all the clues and they tie it up in a nice tidy bundle, and who the villain was always really obvious at that point. And granted, Scooby-Doo is not meant to be the most challenging mystery of all time, but they can figure out the answer at the end because they got all the clues. And once you have all the pieces of the puzzle, of course it makes a picture that's easier to recognize and understand. But when you don't have those pieces, or you don't even realize they're pieces of a puzzle, you're not going to be able to solve that mystery. So give yourself grace, because you absolutely did the best you could at the time. If you feel like there were circumstances that led to a loss that you absolutely wish you could change, I think that it's valid to tell your baby that, and tell that to them out loud. Speaking out loud makes something feel so much more valid than just saying it inside your head. And I I think that it's completely okay to make a little bit of a ceremony out of it, because it is really important, because this is a burden you're carrying and you need to unburden yourself, because it's not helping you, it's not helping anybody. And I think that you can say, set it up a little bit and say, honey, I have to talk to you about something. And it's really hard for me, and it's going to make me really sad, but I have to tell you. So I'm going to talk to you about this tonight at 6 o'clock, or whatever time, or go to some special place that was meaningful to the two of you, whether it's your favorite park or somewhere that just had special meaning. Your favorite place in the yard together, the place where you'd sit and cuddle while you read your book or watch TV. And I think you can tell them everything. Speak from your heart and say, you know what? I feel horrible that I wasn't recognizing that you were sick. I didn't understand that your drinking more water wasn't a byproduct of the summertime. It was because you had diabetes. Or I didn't recognize that you were slowing down because there was a disease. I thought you were just getting older. Or you could say, you know what? I took you to someone that I trusted, whose whole job it is to take care of animals. And they promised me that they were going to do a good job, and then they didn't. And they lied to both of us. And I'm so sorry, and I'm so angry, and I'm upset that this is so unfair. As you could probably tell, I've had this conversation.
Yeah, I
But just know that it helps.
yeah.
I promise it helps. And if you notice your voice starting to crack, taking a drink helps helps change it, because it gets your breathing more level again. That's a
No,
that's a tip I learned a long time ago.
it's no, but I think everything you said, it's first, I can not agree more. Writing it, saying it, screaming it, whatever it is that's going on and on through your mind, you got to get it out. I came up with, and I think this is a common theme right now, but I came up with a million reasons why it was my fault Jasper got cancer. And it could have looked like the beautiful mind whiteboard where I connected all of these dots where I was convinced. And I shared this in our group on Tuesday, and I think I shared it last week too, multiple times in the last week. Even just walking by the fertilizer signs on people's grass, I'm like, did I let him run around and fertilizer? And these are things that 2.5 years in still come to mind. But I found once I said them out loud to a safe audience, because as we know, and we just discussed, not everyone is that safe audience. Once I said it out loud or wrote it down, a lot of people journal. I completely agree with that. Getting it out of your body immediately like removes a little bit of that heaviness. And I know for me, reminding myself, this is grief. I am trying to take control of a situation I have no control over. I am trying to blame because it gives you a little, makes you feel good for a second. And for me, the easiest person to blame was myself. I
Mm-hmm.
do know for a lot of folks that it ends up, and I'm sure, unfortunately, you've been on the receiving end. A lot of people end up blaming the vet, maybe sometimes warranted, but we just want to blame someone and hold on because we want to be angry with someone or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be angry at cancer. Like, no, it's easier for me to be angry at myself and come down on myself. Um, but saying it out loud, releasing it, I've seen it like visibly. Members who have carried something. One example, a member, yelled at her dog the week before he passed, and it was eating her up inside, like completely. And she shared it with me, said she was very nervous to share it in a group, but she felt like she had to. And when she did, I saw 5, 6 heads nodding. People going, "Oh my gosh, I did that too. I got frustrated. I screamed, I yelled." And just the relief, the dropping of the shoulders, the sitting back a little bit, and just the relief from saying it, but also seeing that other people have experienced it. We're taught to hide this away. We're taught to act like everything's okay, and sometimes we need to. Sometimes it is honestly easier to go to work or talk to people and say, "I'm okay," because they're not going to meet us where we're at. So honestly, why bother? And it's a shame that's the case, but I think 80% of the people that ask me how I am, they're saying it because it's a greeting. It's not because they actually want to know. Maybe that's a little
Yeah.
cynical, but um, we have to say it. We have to get it out, even if it's putting it in a chat during a conversation like this. And wholeheartedly love the idea of writing them a letter. Now, that became a ritual for me. It took me 6 months. It was the 6-month anniversary that I wrote Jasper my first letter, and I shared a lot of that stuff. I shared my regrets. I shared where I felt I failed him, and I kept writing these letters, and over time, I became less judgmental on myself. And then 2 years in, I finally had the courage and strength to write the letter from Jasper to me. And I tried doing it for 2 years. I could not. I think I had to work through a lot of the guilt myself to get to a place, because I knew deep down Jasper did not blame me, and that letter from him was going to say, like, I love you. Thank you. You protected me. It took me a while to get there and to believe it. And I credit the community and having opportunities to say it out loud, because if I kept it in, I would still be fully blaming myself and thinking that this was all my fault. And that's not to say I still don't have my moments, but it is so vastly different. And sometimes just the simple act of, this is grief. Dr. Hogan said this is normal, so this is normal. This is part of the process. Or I remember someone else saying they dealt with this last week, so I'm not unique. This is not irrational. This is normal. That alone, like validating ourselves, we deserve that too.
I think one of the other benefits of speaking out loud is sometimes when you say things in your head, they seem perfectly plausible. And then when you say things out loud, you kind of hear it and you're like, wait a minute, really? And, I have, never been the great best test taker in my whole life, had to take a million tests through vet school, and would get stressed out during finals week and go, oh my gosh. So if I don't do great on this test, then I don't get good grades. And if I don't get good grades, then I won't get a good job. And if I won't get a good job, then I'm going to have all this student loan debt from vet school and not even be able to pay it off. And oh my God, I'm going to live on the streets and I'm going to be a bag lady. And that is literally the train of thought. And that I would do. And when I finally was brave enough to say it out loud to one of my classmates, she's like, why wouldn't you just retake the class? And it was like, oh, I guess that probably could circumvent the entire trajectory into bag ladiness. But what I realized I was doing to myself is I was making poorly written fiction. And I had to say it out loud. And now that's kind of my test. When I'm really stressed out and I feel myself spiraling, I'll stop and I'll say, okay, I'm going to say these steps out loud. And is this an actual bona fide trajectory, or is this just poorly written fiction? And if it's poorly written fiction, I'm not going to pay any more attention to it, because I'm not going to waste my precious time reading something or thinking something that is so bad that I couldn't even find it on any TV show or in any book.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is a crazy place. The stories I make up.
Yeah.
But I laugh at it because, again, I did come up with all those stories. I had everything laid out, and it's so hard when we know it's irrational, or when we say it out loud and we're like, this is crazy, but we still feel it. We still
Oh,
feel it.
yeah.
Like, and
That's
I
why
think,
scary dreams and bad dreams are so hard, because
yeah,
even though what happened is absolutely not real, but the emotions that we feel are real,
oh
because
yeah,
our body doesn't know the difference. So a bad dream is just a bad dream, but we can absolutely wake up with a heart racing at 180 beats a minute, a cold sweat. We can't catch our breath. Our hands are clammy. That's all real. So even though the thoughts of I'm going to fail the test and I'm going to end up being a bag lady weren't realistic, the anxiety, the
felt
physical
it.
fallout, the stress that I put myself through was all real, because your
Oh yeah,
body doesn't know the difference.
no. I read books, watch movie, I feel it. I feel it deeply. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm taking the emotions and the stress from a book and bringing it into my day-to-day life, which you don't realize it happens kind of on autopilot. And if we're replaying these movies in our head constantly and not sharing it or saying it out loud, or even just getting like, oh, it's, what, it sucks that that's what's running through your head. Like, I can't sit here and convince anyone not to feel a certain way. I felt immense guilt. People could go through a list of everything I did that helped Jasper, things I noticed, things I did that other parents wouldn't, but I felt guilt. And it was a feeling that was valid, and it took me allowing myself to feel it, but also share it and saying it out loud to the right audience who could just witness it and be there,
Mhm.
and at times challenge me a little bit to offer some reframes, for example. Something you said earlier, which I struggled with at first. So I always imagined Jasper would be there when I maybe had a child. I have not done that yet. And I was so angry. I was so angry that if I had a family in the future, they will not have met Jasper, but he did hang on while I was freezing my eggs. And I'm now able to look back and say, you know what? I do think he pushed through to be present for that because he knew how important it was, and that was the gift he could give me.
Mhm.
But it took a lot of talking through, it took a lot of saying it out loud, it took a lot of going over it because to understand and like it's not even processing grief, it's navigating it to like work through these things. It can't be done in our heads. It can't be done in isolation. It needs to be done with other people because I suck at taking my own advice, but I find I grow the most when I'm giving someone else advice. And I'm like, oh, Britta, you should listen to yourself. Or when I hear someone else talking and it inspires me or allows me to say, oh, I never thought of it that way. Or that's such an interesting way to approach it. Or what a beautiful way to honor them.
Mhm.
So I'm going to now quickly right turn veer into that conversation because I think this is where I love having this community and what I think is so, so, so important. There is no script for this. There is no obituary, memorial service. There's no like honestly until recently like I never saw people talk about or document their experience for saying goodbye. And I know I have some regrets and things that in hindsight I wish I did those last few weeks, but there were no examples. I was the first one in
Right.
my friends to have a senior pet and to have a pet pass away. I had not, you know, I was in college when our second dog passed. Our first dog, Sparky, I was quite young. I had no blueprint, and most of us don't. There's no funeral, no rituals, no, I mean, for me, no cultural things. So, what are some examples? What are some of the things you've seen or that you've done, or unique ways we can approach it? I mean, they are part of our routine, our day to day life. To think that they can just cease to be a part of it is wild to me. And for anyone watching, would love to hear how you've honored or memorialized them, or what you've thought about. But let's talk about like real examples.
Yeah. No, so I had, I grew up in Idaho where land is a lot more easily to come by, just more plentiful. So um, we would, if we lost a pet, we'd have a little burial, and um, we'd kind of take turns saying, what's your favorite memory of Shadow, or what was your favorite story, and share it that way. Um, I I would write them a note and put it, bury it with him. Um, then I, got to be an adult and I moved to Southern California where your property is the size of a postage stamp with a lot of concrete. Um, so that was no longer an option. So then we did private cremation and we'd have their ashes back. Um, so I brought all of their ashes up here and now we have property and I plan to grow wildflowers. And once I have a good patch of wildflowers, I'm going to put everybody's ashes in the wildflowers so they can continue to run and play in the meadow. I think that whatever feels right to that person. I know a lot of people who've planted a rose or planted a different plant or a tree to honor them. I think that it was really important to me to save their dog tags and their collar. And I have a metal chain, like a metal collar, and I'm working on putting all their dog tags on that because, I called it the music. I'd hear them running through the house and I could tell who it was by the tags, the jingle, because each one sounds a little different.
Yeah.
So I think that what's most important for people to recognize is as long as it's not illegal and as long as it's not hurting anybody else, there isn't a wrong way to honor them. And I think that what I've heard from people who lost a pet who took the time to make like a memorial video of their favorite pictures and moments and put it on Facebook have been overwhelmed in the most wonderful way with the outpouring of love and support of family members and close friends who said, "Oh my gosh, I loved Bitsy. I'm so sorry she's gone. I didn't know." And the whole point of an obituary for a human being in the paper is so people are no longer alone.
Yeah.
It disseminates the news of the loss without you having to call 10,000 people and answer 10,000 questions. It draws people to you. When we lost my stepdad and we put an obit in the paper, we'd have people contact us say, "I knew Vic and I loved him," and it helps you not be so alone.
Yeah.
It helps bring you community. And community makes all the difference when you're grieving.
It does.
So, and that's why we made Jasper.
Yeah. So I think too, what can be so important and what I think I got overwhelmed with at first is I was like, oh, I'm supposed to get a tattoo, or I'm supposed to get a piece of jewelry, or I'm supposed to, like, I kept thinking that, oh, there was this like rigid list of things to do because those were the only things I saw or experienced or could think of at the time. And I realized I put a lot of pressure on myself to figure that out. Like, oh, I have to do all these things immediately. And now I'm still figuring it out. Now I am still finding ways to honor him because it's not a one and done thing, it's an ongoing thing. I know for me, just to share some ideas, and please, like, I love, Helen, you light a candle every day in his honor. It's beautiful. Making a memorial in your garden, having everything on, on display, but also acknowledging for folks if it's too difficult to look at the ashes or photos at first, that's okay too. You can, rituals and these little moments should feel genuine to the relationship and the bond you had. They should feel personal. I know for me, I carried his ashes on a walk. I, I'm in New York right now. We were here for our last Christmas together and did this long walk. And Jasper couldn't walk that far. It was 3.5 miles, but I carried him. And I couldn't go on like a normal walk that we would go for his, go potty. But that walk I used to bring his ashes because it kind of, for me, I realized it represented me carrying him on that walk. And so feeling the heaviness, like it helped. And that used to be the way I'd go, hopefully on a beach walk, but anywhere, bring his ashes. And that was my moment. And then over time, I can just go on a walk and think of him and talk to him and think of these memories. Like I don't need the ashes there. But I know people bring their leashes on walks. I know I have him with me here. We've moved to Florida, but I was coming up here for a couple weeks. So I have a mini memorial set up. I know one of our members, she got rocks made with her dog Chloe's name on them and brought them to the beaches that they used to visit together, which I thought was so incredible. And I never thought of something like that. For me, going back to the family and holiday stuff, um, I I knew I needed a ritual that was just for me to keep Jasper a part of Christmas because I love Christmas and he was always kind of he was my emotional support for everything. But I always, when I think of holidays, I think of some of the moments where I'd be like, oh, I have to go feed Jasper in private, and we'd go escape to my room to read a book and get some space. But I decided I'm going to buy him a new ornament every year that reminds me of him, just something simple. But years from now, I will have a tree of ornaments that remind me of Jasper and who he was. And the first one was a cardinal, then I got a lion, and I'm just going to keep going. And it's something that I can hold that I can't really get judged on because no one else is a part of it. But it's like these little moments, these little things, talking to them out loud, just saying their name, saying good night or good morning. It could be a huge post on Facebook, or it could be writing the letters. I know for me, it took me a year to post on social media about Jasper. I struggled with the finality of it and also that once you post, it's there, which is why I'm excited to share. For those that haven't seen it, we recently created the Forever Space because of that. So, like Sarah mentioned, I think sometimes in writing, it's a little bit easier for people to express their sympathy, their emotions, but also share those stories. And I remember when Jasper passed, I was like, I just want someone to say, I remember when, or I can still think of that day when we did XYZ, went to this event, or that, he got in my daughter's, not mine, but my friend Alicia's daughter's stroller, and these little moments and memories. And so the Forever Space, it's a pet memorial builder, but it's meant to be ever living. It is something you can edit and add to over time, but family and friends can go leave their memories and photos. And it's not this like one and done thing. You can keep expanding, you can keep sharing. So I think Mila is still okay. Thank you. Mila is just shared the link. But I will say I struggled with it at first. I think I had just Jasper's photos and a couple nicknames on there for a couple months. And then one day his stories just poured out of me. And I know this was a question we got the fear of forgetting them, the fear of forgetting those little quirks and memories. It kills me. I can't smell his stinky breath anymore, and I never thought I would wish to smell it again because it was bad. But now these tiny moments come up, and there's a place to put them. It can be the forever space, it can be a notepad, it can be texting someone, it can be sharing it in the community on social media. They deserve to keep being spoken about. When I talk about making it personal, like Jasper was a bit of a diva, he would want me grieving him loudly and proudly. He would want me to keep sharing his photos and talking about him, and he would want that. And so I'm going to do what I know he would embrace and what I think is perfect for him. And I think that's what a lot of this is about. It's taking your relationship, your bond, and doing what feels right for that. And I think that is one of the big things. This is not one size fits all. There's not one way to do this. There's not one way to navigate grief or loss. There's so many different options, and I hope no one has like fear, or because I did, but fear about doing what feels right to them. Get the tattoo, get the piece of jewelry, or wait, create a piece of artwork, plant wildflowers, create something in your garden, but also take your time. Do it when it feels right. It is not something you have to do immediately. It's also something you could. Everyone is different. I have seen so many ways to approach grief, and there's not one way, there's not one right guide or to-do list. This is about sharing and inspiring and giving ourselves the opportunity to talk through this. This is bigger than just a quick decision. I've not had to write an obituary myself, but I've seen friends struggle to write them from their parents and say, this is going to be the one thing in the paper and I have to get it right. And that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to get that all out at once. This should be honoring them over time. I hope that made sense.
It makes perfect sense. And the other thing is we put a lot of pressure on ourselves about things. And I think the reason we do is because it means so much to us. So you want it to be perfect. But the reality is love isn't perfect. And it's messy and it's bumpy. And some days it is challenging, like when they chew up your favorite pair of shoes, or when they, you had a dinner party planned and you inadvertently left the entree where the dog could get it. So they counter surfed and they were like, that was the best lasagna. Thank you. You have every right to be frustrated when stuff like that happens. Or when they poop on the floor, or pee on your favorite rug that you inherited from your grandmother. Or, recognize that your life together probably wasn't perfect. It was wonderful for so many reasons. And whatever you do to honor them just has to be meaningful to you. That's all that matters. And again, they're always going to be a part of you, because love doesn't go anywhere. Love is going to hold its place in your heart as long as you want it there. And if you feel like for some reason, at some point, maybe you do need to let it go, for whatever reason that is, that would be a really personal and private reason, and that's okay. That's okay too. Just understand that you're not alone. And you're not crazy and you're not weird for grieving the loss of your pet. You're just one of us.
Yeah.
So, you know, the whole reason that I did my very first TED Talk was because every time I was on a plane, every time I was at a cocktail party, every time I met some group of people that was new and they found out I was an emergency veterinarian, I would be told a euthanasia story. And many of those stories were 10, 15, sometimes 20 years old.
Wow.
But it was a wound that wasn't healing. And it was something that they needed someone to hear who understood. And so that's what precipitated that first talk, is because I recognized what a huge need there was for it to be discussed, for people to have an outlet, and for people to feel seen and understood. And that talk led to a second talk. And hopefully I'll have a third, but even if I don't, I get to be a part of Jasper now. So people have a way, an outlet. People have somewhere to be heard, to be seen, to be understood. And if they need to talk to me for some reason, they have a way to talk to me. But I'm one part of a community. Just know that you're not alone and you're not weird or wrong or weak or anything else. And the other thing you need to know is I would say more often than not, people tell me that when their pet died, it was harder than when they lost a human being. And that's no cause for shame. It's just different. The relationship is different. When you're an adult and you don't live at home anymore, you live remotely from a lot of the people you grew up with and a lot of the people that you love, your relationship is different. And also, a lot of human relationships are difficult
Yeah.
for many reasons. And if you loved someone and lost someone who you had a difficult relationship with, it's okay to miss your pet who loved you unconditionally, who told you you are perfect, not just with their eyes or when they purred or wagged their tail, but with their actions. They showed you that you are perfect and you are loved. Yeah, you're going to miss them more. And that's okay.
I mean, I know for me, Jasper taught me, and it's still a work in progress, but he taught me how to love myself. And the hardest thing after he was gone was learning how to put myself first, because that was not something I knew how to do. It was not something I even wanted to do at first. But I had to remind myself that Jasper loved me so much, so unconditionally, that that's what he would want for me. But they are so ingrained in everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
It took so much time to even allow my body to realize that the the sudden feeling at 7 p.m. that Jasper needed his meds, or when I've been gone from the house for 3 hours that I needed to get back home. Those are the moments. Those are the moments that catch us off guard. It's the little moments. It's the walking in the grocery store and passing an aisle that maybe you didn't even shop in the pet aisle at the grocery store, but just seeing it hurts. And
For a lot of people, it's the touch hunger.
oh, that was the biggest unlock when you taught me about that. Jasper, my only hug of the day, my only touch. I would love to hear, like, if you can explain it for people, because I think that was something that I didn't learn about until over a year into my grief. And that was like the biggest thing for me.
For a lot of people who, again, are adults, um, especially if you don't have a significant other that you live with, you don't get a lot of physical touch connection. That's one of the things they find with people in nursing homes. They they get touched in that they get, repositioned in their beds or helped out of the potty, but it's different when a touch is delivered with love and affection. And for a lot of adults, they get that from their pets. And the reason it's so significant with our pets is that dogs and cats have a body temperature that's naturally about 101 or 98.6 normal. So they always feel warmer to us. And it's the warmth and it's the weight and it's the softness. And it feels like the best hug. And for a lot of us, we cuddle with our pets in bed. And that's one of the best times of the day because it's quiet and it's dark and you're calm and you feel loved and safe. And when that's suddenly gone, you can't sleep and you feel this horrible, crushing loneliness and you're not sure why. And that's a big part of it is you have a touch hunger.
Yep.
As social animals, we are engineered to need contact with others. And the largest organ in your body isn't your liver, it's your skin. And having that warmth and that softness and that weight in our arms or on our lap or just adjacent to us makes a huge difference. So if you are finding that you are inconsolably lonely and you're not understanding why it's so hard, that's a big part of it. To help feel better with that, the good news is you don't have to go adopt a new pet. If you have any friend that has a nice, friendly pet, go over and just have a cuddle. Have a fur fix. It's completely okay. And when you do it with your friends, it's hard at the shelter because I personally cannot go to a shelter without having someone come home with me. I just can't leave them there. Um, go to your friends. There's no expectation that you're going to bring them home. There's no pressure. It's just a pure exchange of love. And you'll both feel better for it.
I mean, it blew my mind when you pointed that out to me because I think I had shared with you how I kept just saying, like, I need a hug, I need a hug, I need a hug. Some of my friends were like, okay. Um, or I would get so excited to go to yoga because at the end, the instructor would kind of like tap your feet. And I was like, oh, that's the only time I'm getting touched now every day. And people don't realize it's why I think that going to bed is so hard for people. I fell asleep on the couch every night, just not even wanting to get into bed. It was hard for me to sleep through the night. I did, I did go to a shelter and volunteered a bit. I knew I would not be. I knew I was not ready for another pet, so and I loved it. I mean, I was crying sometimes walking these puppies and telling them all about Jasper, but they don't judge. They loved it. They were so happy for me to be there. But friends, family, pets, I mean, I definitely probably loved on some strangers' pets outside, that likely were like, wow, she really loves my dog. But like you said, every, every time I said to that owner, I just lost my dog. Oh, sometimes the love from these strangers, they get it. They get it. But it's all to say this is not small. This is not insignificant. These losses are big. I mean, today we've named so many reasons why we feel it so deeply, why we struggle so much with the guilt, why it's so complicated, and validate that people feel this more deeply than losing a human. And also that there are no set rituals, there are no set experiences that are normal to do when a pet passes. And people are people get uncomfortable when we talk about it. And so this is, I hope if you take anything from this conversation today, for anyone, it's that this is not some small, insignificant thing to get over, move on from. The love and bond we shared is not something that disappears. It is not something that can be replaced either, but that honoring them, remembering them, finding ways to stay connected to them, that does not mean we're not grieving deeply. If we do laugh, remembering a story, that does not mean we do not miss them. I've never felt so many and I'm laughing because I've never felt so many emotions at the same time as I felt while navigating this grief, because I could feel anger, numb, a little joy. I can feel this all at the same time. And I think that was the most confusing thing to me until I accepted that they can all be true. I can be grateful for the relationship and still angry he's gone. I can be I can feel so honored that he stuck around while I froze my eggs, and still so frustrated that he won't be there if and when I have a child. I can love Theo deeply and find so much joy in our day to day together now. That does not mean my relationship with Jasper means any less or was any less important or significant. They deserve to be mourned. The grief does not disappear. I know it'll be part of my life every day for the rest of my life. It will not feel as sharp and heavy, but it'll be there. And it's conversations like this with you and with members in this community that reminds us all of this. And the more we talk about it openly and share these stories, there's this opportunity to change the narrative. And maybe it even means in the future there will be accepted set rituals and ways to honor and grieve them, because they deserve it and we deserve it.
And to clarify, just for people who aren't sure, when we say rituals, we don't mean necessarily like, lighting candles and shaking beads and chanting or anything
Yeah,
like
no.
that. When a human being dies, there's a socially accepted set of norms and expectations, like having a funeral, like writing an obituary, like having a wake, and everybody comes together and they celebrate that life and support those who lost. Those are the rituals in the United States that are commonly associated with death. In Victorian times, people would wear black for a month. There was an entire set of clothing that you wore, including jewelry that was mourning jewelry. That was the social norm. That was the ritual at the time. Where animals are concerned, historically, there has not been a set of standards, expectations, protocols, or rituals that are followed as a society. And that's what makes it hard. That's why it's disenfranchised grief. And that's why we have Jasper, because we recognize that these are valid losses and we are wanting to help alter the narrative to make it the norm that yes, you have something to celebrate this life. Yes, you can talk about this loss and people don't have to act like you're weird or you're weak or you're different in any other way. It's a loss, and loss hurts.
I'm so glad you clarified that. And absolutely. And as you were saying it, I just thought, what if in March, instead of me being really sad on March 10th, maybe this year I'll plan a celebration of life for him.
Can make it a personal holiday. That can be
Yeah.
Jasper Day.
Or maybe I'll pick a different day. I can pick whatever. I think that's the other thing too. Maybe it's celebrating their birthday or gotcha day. We hang on to these dates that represent something really sad. I saw I saw a post on social media, but it did stop me in my tracks. It was someone saying, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but it was someone saying, ask someone, the day of the week that maybe their uncle passed or their mom passed, and then ask someone the day of the week their pet passed. They were like, they probably don't remember if it was a Monday or a Sunday for the human, but for the pet, oh, you better believe that people probably know the exact time. And it was one of those things, and it's something I've heard from members. It was one of those things that I was like, yeah, these, and again, like your talk on the euthanasia aspect is so huge, and we will absolutely, because I know we are way over, we will do more of these conversations. Obviously Sarah and I can talk forever, so people can just stream us all day long. But with the euthanasia guilt and making that decision, it is so heavy, because a lot of times we're picking that day, we're scheduling it, and I know I've hung on to that date, but there was just something that in me, when you were talking, that I was like, I wanted to embrace these past cultural things and say, I'm ready to celebrate him. I'm ready to throw the party that I wish I threw and had the foresight to throw before he passed away, but I'm ready to do it now. And I think that's why these conversations are so incredible, because you get inspired and you change the way you think and what you feel you're supposed to do. I thought I had to be deeply sad and mourn him on those anniversaries. And maybe that's what I needed the first 2 years, but now what I think I need is something different. I think I need to embrace celebrating him more and laughing more and finding that joy. It took time, but it's pretty cool. Oh my gosh. Obviously, I could talk for hours about this. I know you could too, and I could talk to you forever. And I hope everyone that joined us today knows how meaningful all of your comments have been throughout this. And I was not sure how, because I'm on a different. I apologize for not responding to all of them, but trying to stay present. But just know I saw what everyone wrote, and I just feel so honored and privileged that you guys are here and sharing your stories too. But Dr. Hogan, every time I talk to you, I feel like something new unlocks for me. And the insight you have and perspective on this, and just the pure validation, it is so, so helpful. It is so powerful. I I see someone in the chat with a question that was not discussed. Are there any last minute questions for Dr. Hogan while we have her here that I can relay? And I know we will absolutely do a follow up on this. Um,
I just want to say thank
yeah,
you
please,
for
please.
including me and having me be a part of this. I feel very much like vet med is my calling, and this is a big part of it. And I appreciate the opportunity to try to help people and make a difference in this area, because I think it's an underserved area as far as my profession goes. So I appreciate it very much. And I'm so, so thankful that you made Jasper, because that I think we are helping a lot of people. And I think we're making a difference in our own tiny little way. And I appreciate being a part of that.
I am so, so grateful for you being here, for you being a part of this community, and for everyone that joined us. I know I see some more questions coming through. Can I ask you two more, Dr. Hogan?
Yeah, of course.
Got to give the fans what they want. So I know we kind of covered some of this, but how do you cope when you suspect maybe your pet's death was preventable, and maybe how to forgive the vet?
I think that that's a twofold question. I think the first thing you need is to try to make sure, and I obviously don't know the circumstances at all, but talk to someone independent who doesn't have any skin in the game, is kind of the phrase. Have someone independent try to explain maybe the medicine to you, because it's nice to be empowered with knowledge, and it makes you feel a whole lot less helpless. And it's not that you're trying to get in, this isn't about evidence gathering, this isn't about anything else. This is just, please help me understand, because I don't understand. Exactly like if I take my car into the shop, I don't know the mechanics. So mechanics of the engine, I don't know the, you know, beyond wheels, tires, steering wheel, I don't know the anatomy of the car. So I need to have someone explain to me why the engine isn't working.
Hmm.
once I have some knowledge, then I can ask thoughtful questions. And I think it is 100% reasonable to talk to your veterinarian or whoever that veterinarian was and just say, I'm having a hard time with this. And I need to understand what happened, please, because just know your brain demands answers. That's how we're wired. And if you don't get answers, your brain will write a scenario of how it thinks things works. And for whatever reason, our brain always makes the nightmare scenario. It never makes the happiest day parade scenario. It's always the nightmare. And you imagine terrible things. And they may or may not be true or accurate at all. So before you torture yourself with a nightmare scenario thinking the worst happened, get some information first so you can ask thoughtful questions. Second, talk to that veterinarian and come to them from a place of sincere vulnerability because, yes, you're grieving, but it's going to be a whole lot harder for them to talk to you if they feel like they're walking in front of a firing squad. And then if you are worried that there authentically was something that went wrong, you can ask them and say, my understanding from speaking with somebody, from speaking with another veterinarian that doesn't know you and doesn't know this case, explained X, Y, and Z. And it sounds like something very different happened. So can you help me understand why? So I think what you need are probably some answers. And it's going to feel better. And I can tell you, being a veterinarian, we absolutely do our best. But are mistakes made on occasion? Yeah, they are, because we're humans. And the other thing is, though, that not all medical errors result in death. There can 100% be medical errors where, yeah, there was a mistake, but that doesn't mean it had a terrible fallout. Like if I meant to shake 2 Advil in my hand and pop them in my mouth and I inadvertently swallowed 3, that was an error, but it's not going to be a fatal error. So just keep that in mind. There may have been mistakes made. There may have been dosages that were potentially incorrect, but that doesn't mean that they resulted in a death.
Thank you for that. I think that's really, really sound and helpful advice. And I can only imagine how painful being in that situation is, and talking it out and having that like kind of unbiased or third party definitely is significant. And then the last question, which I think is a good one to wrap up on, how how do you suggest handling fear of losing memories, of forgetting, of feeling like you can't quite grasp all those little details from when they were here?
I would probably approach that a couple different ways. One, because I'm a pen and paper person, I tend to write a lot of things down. So I would get a small notebook, one that you could easily carry with you. And the moment you have a memory, write it down. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be enough that you're going to remember, it's a trigger. You're just trying to capture these. And the other thing I would do, if for whatever reason you don't necessarily want to write it down, is use your smartphone and take a video of yourself talking about the memory. And you can make a video archive of your memories. And if you have a family member who was close to you, who was close to your animal too, you can invite them to participate. and just say, you know what, I want to spend an afternoon talking about them and remembering them and trying to capture it all. And I want to record it with my phone. Will you help me? And, you know, you can make coffee or tea or lunch or breakfast or whatever and set down the phone at the table. And you don't even have to have it shining on yourself. You can just have it, you know, pointed at the ceiling or
Okay.
pointed at their picture and talk and just let the memories flow. And it's okay if you cry. Just just make it.
Yeah.
And then you know you have it. And then in the future you can see about having somebody potentially process it and turn it into a movie or a disc that you could play whenever you want. There's a lot of options now that you can have done really quite affordably. So that would be my suggestion. And it's natural to worry that you're going to forget them. And over time, yes, memories do fade. But what's most important that you're never going to forget is how much you love them and they loved you. Because that's a part of you.
Yeah.
And it's probably a part of you that is a part you cherish and you really like. Because the best parts of me, I either learned from dogs or I got from dogs and cats. I'm kind of, I feel like my dogs showed me more. My cats are maybe not as generous, but
I
but
get
I love my cats too.
no, and I appreciate the member who asked this because it's something I struggle with too. It's, look, like I've shared this with some people. I think I only have two photos of when Jasper was a puppy because that was digital camera age, and I probably lost a whatever those things were called memory card somewhere, and I deleted my Facebook I had at the time. And when I got Theo, I barely took photos of him the first couple of weeks because I felt guilty. And I think one of the things I realized was we take so many videos now that it's almost natural that then I go on my Instagram and I feel like I'm reliving these moments, but there's a lot of moments I feel like I can't relive because I don't have them documented. And I know I've tried to remind myself, like, well, you were present, you were in the moment, but it still makes it hard because I'm like, well, why did I record that concert that I've never watched the video of again, or the fireworks, but not these moments with Jasper? And I want to validate that I have too beat myself up for feeling like I can't watch a movie of Jasper's life in my head, but then I try to think, okay, well, can I do that with anything? And no, it's always these small memories. It's always these little random things. Like if I try to think about high school, I don't have a memory of my whole senior year in my head, but I have these little moments. And so I try to remind myself of that if helpful. I also agree with the writing things down, but also the other reason we did, and I feel like a salesperson, but it's the Forever Space is free for everyone. It's honestly, it was something I created because I needed it. I needed a place that if I came across a random picture, someone sent me a picture or remembered this random moment, I could go put it in there. We have a section called Unforgettable Moments, and it's not about the big things. You know, yes, I put in there the hike we went on, but I think I put in a random time that I went to the park with Jasper and my friend and her daughter. And it was just a little memory. Or I think about the way he used to show his teeth and smile when he still had some of his teeth. And it's this little moment, and it feels sometimes like it's just this little pinprick pinprick over, this huge lifetime, but you're right. And I use this when I'm thinking about the end too, that the sum of the relationship is based on the sum of the whole relationship. It is not just the end experience. It is not just the negative experiences. It is everything together. And they live within us. I would not be the person I am today or right now if it weren't for Jasper. And I hope that at the very least, and again, like, don't pressure, for no one, pressure yourself to get there quickly, but remember that they impacted you in such a significant way. We wouldn't all be here coming together, grieving, and needing to connect with people if this loss did not completely derail us. And if that's how we're reacting, it means they made a huge impact in our lives. It means they are part of our identity right now. But I want to validate, it is hard. I get the stress and the fear, but hold on to those little moments, even if they seem like the silliest little things. It's about laying in bed or the couch or the moments before going to sleep. It doesn't need to be the big adventure, the big moment, or the huge trip. I will say it again, but Dr. Hoggan, you are incredible. I am so grateful for you. You have taught me so much. I learn something new every time we get on these calls, both from you and from our community, who is so incredible. The vulnerability, the openness of sharing. I say at the beginning of all of our support groups, I lead some of our peer groups, and I always say, if you're willing to share, it is such an incredible thing because it gets it out of your body, it gets it out of your head, and it allows you to just release it a little bit. But also, listening is so powerful too. If you do share, just know you're not only helping yourself, you're helping everyone else that's listening, because you're giving people an opportunity to feel validated or to see things from a different perspective or to feel less alone. And if you're listening, not everything will always resonate with you, but take it and rework it into something that does feel right, something that does represent your bond, your relationship, or your lifestyle. I know I'm leaving here between Dr. Hogan and the chat with so many ideas and ways that I'm going to continue honoring him and bringing him into my day to day life. Some of you guys have inspired me to go get a house, though, and plant a bunch of wildflowers and a garden. So thanks for that. But that's my dream, and it's also okay if that doesn't happen for me for a couple years. But then I get to bring him into that new home and down the line, and I think that's one of the great things. We don't have to do it right now. We don't have to do it tomorrow. We don't have to do it next year. We can honor them anytime. I just appreciate everyone who joined us today, for staying over an hour over our time. Thank you, Sarah, for staying for so long. I look forward to continue to sharing your conversations. I know there's so much to cover. If you are watching from our YouTube page, there are resources there. And hey, we are pet people. We all get it. I am surprised Theo slept through this, but the best way to do this is real life. but we have so many resources, so many incredible videos and content from Sarah, both online but in our community. And if anyone has questions, please always DM me. Always happy to talk. And I hope to see everyone either in Jasper or on one of these discussions again soon. And thank you so, so much, Dr. Hoggan. It was a pleasure as always. And I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you so
Have a
much,
blessed day,
everyone.
everybody. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Take good care of each other.